Here's the problem with real estate investing and house flipping is that I need money today. I need cash flow, and the money in flipping doesn't come until a few months from now, and the money from rentals doesn't come for years from now. But there are actually 4 ways that you can make money today buying your first real estate deal. And that's what we're going to go through, because as the solo house flipper model goes, I am trying to free myself from anything that takes up my mental headspace. All right. And one of the things is, of course, you got to be able to pay for your groceries as you're flipping these houses. You want to build wealth over the long term, but you need to make money today. All right. And not all of us have all the cash to go fund these things. So you might be borrowing some money. And this is how I've structured my organization to be able to be paid as I'm doing those things. So I go and borrow money from the bank or a hard money lender, and my businesses get paid as I'm flipping these houses. In fact, I don't make all that much money off flip itself because the companies got paid as I was flipping them. All right, so here are the 4 different companies: real estate agent, wholesaler, GC, handyman. Now, a lot of people get freaked out when I say company, but a company is pretty simple. It is a legal entity that is separate from the entity that is buying properties. Now, I don't want to get too crazy here because I know a lot of people get overwhelmed by thinking about setting up companies and all that stuff. It is super simple. Like, literally go online, set up an LLC, and start a bank account, and you have a separate legal entity. Not giving legal advice here. If you guys get freaked out about that stuff, go look it up yourself. That was not legal advice, whoever's listening. All right, you got it. Point is, you set it up separately because you want a bank to be able to give you money, and you want to be hiring outside vendors, even if you happen to own that outside vendor company. Got my notes in my journal, by the way, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at. Now, you don't have to set up all of these. You might just set up 1 or 2 of these, but let's start with real estate agent. So here you can get paid on the front end or the back end of the deal. The catch is you actually have to have your real estate license to be able to pull this one off. But you go find a house that's on the market on the MLS or on Zillow, and you purchase it. Each side gets paid. You're going to get paid as the real estate agent today. That's a really easy one. That one happens all the time. What a lot of people don't think about is the wholesaler. So most real estate investors eventually graduate to, instead of buying houses on the market, they buy houses off market, generally through a wholesaler. First time you buy a house from a wholesaler, go to closing and see that dude made $20,000, probably going to make you sick, and it's also going to make you motivated to maybe go find the deals yourself, become your own wholesaler. So this, by the way, I just paid a $100,000 fee for an apartment complex to a wholesaler. It kind of hurt, but it happens to all of us. So wholesaler gets a house for $160,000. He sells it to you for $180,000. He makes this $20,000 difference. What if you were the one that went out and found that deal for $160,000, and through this separate entity that you set up, you put an assignment fee on it and sell it to your investment company at $180,000. You go get a hard money loan to buy this house for $180,000. Hard money lenders are always dealing with paying wholesale fees. And then right when you close on that property, you get your $20,000. Now you got some living money while you're flipping this house. You go to flip the house, and hopefully you make a nice profit there as well, just like you would have had you bought a house from a wholesaler. They're pricing it to where you can still make a little bit of money. Next is GC. Now you should absolutely get paid as a GC. Made a lot of videos about this. This is basically my whole thing. This is how construction is the power in flipping houses and real estate investing. We don't do DIY here. We do MIY. That's managing it yourself. And I made a whole video about how you go get your GC license, or if you work through other GCs. But to actually pull this off where you get paid, you're going to have your GC license, most likely, to be able to pay project management fees to your separate entity. Maybe not, but that one's probably playing it close with the lender. You don't want to cross people the wrong way here, right? You want to do this stuff legitimately. As the wholesaler example, I'm legitimately being the wholesaler. I'm paying to go out and find deals, and I'm selling them to myself, or maybe I would sell them to others. And as a GC, if I have my GC license, obviously it is reasonable for me to be charging a fee. You'll probably also want to set up general liability, maybe have a workers' comp exemption. Don't want to confuse you guys too much. This is just basic business stuff. Finally is getting paid as the laborer. Okay, the GC that you hire is going to go hire subcontractors who go and actually do the work. They pull up the floors. They take the cabinets out, throw them in dumpsters. They do the landscaping. They do the painting. They put the hardware on the doors. These are all things that you could do even if you have absolutely no construction experience. And especially when you're first starting out, you might want to DIY some of this stuff, but somebody is going to get paid to do that work. So obviously, if you're the general contractor, you can say, hey, I'm paying myself an hourly rate rate to do that work. Or if you haven't gone the step where you're going to be the general contractor and you've hired another general contractor, you could ask them to make that arrangement where they actually paid you, they got paid. It gets a little bit complex there, but that is how you get money today as a house flipper. You do it through the loan. And I know it seems complex here, but it's really not that much. You set up your separate entity and you can bill your investment entity for doing these services that somebody else was going to have to do. See, when I started out, I realized finally, after many years, that basically the whole game was everybody had their hands in my pocket. And all I could think about is I want to get those hands out of my pocket. And that's where this whole mentality started to come. It wasn't until a long time later that I realized, wait, this is how I can make my grocery money, my money to feed my family, while I'm also becoming an investor. So there's really three levels money creation. You have the short term, you have, which is what we talked about today, through being a real estate agent, wholesaler, GC, or laborer, you can make money today, the grocery money that you need. And then on the medium term, you have house flipping. When you actually go to sell that house, you're going to make large chunks of money. And then you have the long term, and that's when you start holding these houses as rentals. And eventually that rental income, the money that the renters, the tenants pay you every month, it starts to add up. And over years, each one of these time horizons of money starts to get replaced. Eventually you're making enough flipping houses to where you can take out the short term because you have enough of those medium term chunks coming in and you've saved enough money to where you don't need to worry about this as much. And then over even more time, you have so much rent money coming in that it can take place of all of this. And then all of your income comes from rent. You barely pay any taxes. It's a great thing. You have wealth from multiple properties. You got nothing to worry about. It's awesome. I know. That's the whole model here. Guys, that's what we talk about here. I love counting my chickens, thinking about what that will look like 30 years from now. And so I built this whole app that kind of shows you what your actions today will look like in 30 years. Made a video about it. The app's free. Check it out. It's fun. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.